All right, welcome back to continuing the discussion, Genesis 25. Let's see. All right, let's see. So Genesis 25 is one of those chapters that quietly shifts the story. Abraham dies, Isaac steps forward, a new set of brothers, Jacob and Esau, take center stage. But if we only read it as a transition chapter, we miss some of the really deep things happening here. Let's slow down and look at a few places where we haven't explored before. Let's start with a surprising theme, the importance of quiet faithfulness. When Abraham dies, the text says, God blessed his son Isaac in Genesis 25:11. That line is easy to skip, but it matters. Abraham was one who received the covenant. He had the visions, the journeys, the trials. Isaac, he inherits, and that can seem less exciting, but think about it. Isaac doesn't perform miracles. He doesn't build altars all over the land. He doesn't rescue Lot or fight battles, but he holds the line. And sometimes holding the line is the most important thing you can do. Isaac stays in the land. He prays when his wife can't conceive, and God hears him. That's something we don't always celebrate. The quiet intercessor, the steady faith, the person who carries the promise without flash. So here's our reflection. Am I willing to be faithful in quiet ways, even when it doesn't feel dramatic or noticed? God sees it, God blesses it. Now let's talk about legacy and how we handle what we inherit. This chapter shows us multiple inheritances. Abraham gives gifts to his other sons, but he gives everything to Isaac. It's a reminder that God's covenant line is specific. Not everyone gets the same role. And then we get to Esau and Jacob. Esau was born first. He came out red and strong. He was the hunter, the outdoorsman. Jacob followed, literally grabbing his heel. From the start, there's tension, and not just between the brothers, but between calling and culture. Because in that world, the firstborn had the rights. The firstborn got the inheritance. But God had already told Rebekah, the older will serve the younger. Here's what we don't talk about enough. Sometimes the roles God gives us don't match what the world expects. That's not easy. For Jacob, it meant striving. For Esau, it meant letting go. And that leads us to one of the most subtle but powerful verses in the chapter. So Esau despised his birthright. He gave it up for soup. Why would he do that? Because he was hungry? That hits hard to me. Because how many times do we trade something eternal for something immediate? That's our second reflection. Where am I tempted to give up spiritual inheritance for temporary relief? And what might I be missing when I settle for what's easy instead of holding out for what matters? But there's one more angle we haven't touched on much. The role of generational healing. Think about this. Abraham had Ishmael and Isaac. There was two divisions, tension, two sons, two paths. Now we have Jacob and Esau, another pair, more conflict. And in both cases, it's the younger who carries the covenant. But here's the thing. God still blesses the others. Ishmael gets 12 sons. Esau becomes a nation. God doesn't ignore them. That shows us that even outside the covenantal line, God is generous, still active, still writing stories. So if you've ever felt like you were if you were on the outside, not the one who got the spotlight, the promise, this chapter says, God still sees you. There's a story for you too. There's a story for every single person. So as we close, here are three things to carry with us. One, faithfulness doesn't have to be loud to matter. The steady prayers of people like Isaac still move heaven. Number 2, don't sell your birthright for a bowl of soup. What God has put in your life is worth more than any short-term fix. And 3, even in a divided story, God is still working. Even in families with tension, even when the roles feel unfair, God is not finished. Genesis 25 may not feel dramatic, but it sets the stage for one of the most important spiritual journeys in all of Scripture. And it begins with a simple choice: pray, wait, trust. Choose what lasts. And now thanks for joining me today. And let's keep this going together. Keep it going. Post some comments if you will. Post what kind of reflections you might have. And stay tuned for my stuff tomorrow.